All right, everybody, and welcome back to the. We still don't have a name. We appreciate all the suggestions on a potential name of the podcast. Still haven't figured that out yet. But I'm Martino Puccio, Matt Santangelo, and alongside us today is another Sempre Milan guest and friend, Anthony Torgrud. But I just call him Torgrud. How are you, man? Well, how are the both of you? But first and foremost, our esteemed guest today.
Oh, esteemed. I haven't been called that in a while, but happy to be here. My suggestion for the name is Poochie Pals. I don't know why. I just came with that right now. So, okay, that one's thrown out the door. That's all right.
I mean, Poochie Pals just sounds like one of those, like a mobile game.
It sounds like a Tamagotchi knockoff.
Yeah.
Oh, did you feature Poochie Pal today? No, we didn't instead. Yeah, like Nintendogs. But anyways, thanks for the suggestion, Torgru. It's more than what I came up with. Santangelo, how are you? Torgrud made a comment saying that you look absolutely yoked. Can you confirm that you were taking any of Gasparini's juice?
I can't confirm that I'm not.
Alleged juice.
However, if look, Milan should be lacking some defensive help, as we've seen in preseason. So if they need a physical presence back there,
yes,
I can be swayed on a very affordable low contract.
Yes. But speaking of Gasparini, good segue. CDK off to Atalanta. This has been the strong rumor for a while. This kind of started even back in June, if I remember correctly. We had some of those loose links, and then his agent comes out and says, no, they love him here at Milan. They don't want to get rid of him. We've seen this story before. We'll just kind of start from last summer and into his first season. Started off kind of relatively strong, I thought. Like there were some signs of a positive player there, whether it was against Udinese or Bologna. And then the wheels came off, and it was a disaster of a first season for him. We know that they spent the bulk of that money last summer in that budget towards CDK. All confidence lost, playing out of position, not really getting consistent minutes. Whether or not it was warranted from Pioli because of his poor play might be a different conversation. But the fact of the matter is that he was not getting consistent time. And when he was out there, he was devoid of all confidence. And I think everybody could say that whether you had hope for him or not. It ends with 1 assist, 0 goals, a lot of post hits, a lot of hands on his head. Like, I can't believe that just happened. And where we need emotional support for this player, whether it's, practice penalty kicks to boost his confidence. Eerily similar to Paqueta. I think a lot of people have really kind of compared it to that, where you saw some signs at first and then just a player with 0 confidence. What are your initial thoughts of this? I mean, I think this I know, Torgrud, you were a little skeptical of the structure of the deal, not so much that he would be leaving. What are your overall thoughts now that we kind of have the finer details of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. I was excited for the player. I told you before we started recording that I was going to wear my CDK jersey. I forgot to, but cat's out of the bag. I own one. I had really high hopes for this kid. And, the joke's on me, I guess. Like you said, 1 assist all season. That's simply not good enough. When it started off, it looked like he was going to be something, and almost like the players that were late to return from vacation who didn't have their fitness levels yet. They were the ones letting him down. He could have had 5 or 6 assists in the opening 10, 15 games, I want to say.
Yep.
But he only got 1, and then he never put himself in those positions. Again, low on confidence. I was actually at the game against Cremonese where it ended 1-1, and he had a one-on-one with the keeper. It looked like he was about to round the keeper and score his first goal, and somehow he still didn't do it. And the reaction from the crowd then was laughter when it was a must-score goal. We needed that to win the game, and everyone just laughed because they said, of course, it's CDK. So that should tell you that he lost the fan support. He had obviously lost the team support with Pioli not playing him at this point in the season. And just going to Atalanta, I think it's a move where he has the opportunity to revitalize his career. It's a team that has high aspirations, but not exactly the high, what's the word I'm looking for? The desire from the fans to have to finish top 3 every single season, like Milan has. So the pressure, thank you. So it's a better place for him to be, but I don't know if that's where he's gonna flourish. I wonder if making a loan move, especially a relatively cheap one, $3 million, it might hurt him more.
So here, Matt, just to set you up for this, the structure, and you could speak on it. So a $3 million loan fee, which Milan would make the 3 million. There's a 23 million buy option. There's 4 million in add-ons with that, and then a 10% sell-on. They're covering his entire salary as well. That's just another little detail with that. So Milan wouldn't really be on the hook for that much. They'd be making money from CDK being on loan. But obviously, with that, Matt, it's not an obligation. Is that an issue for you? Because I know Torgrud has mentioned this. If it goes poorly there, then Milan are really in a bad situation with him and could take an even greater loss on this player.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, when there's a player that you're looking to offload, and it's been obvious who those players are for this team, really since the summer started. You want to see obligation on the back of those loans, right? And it just, for the fact of the matter is, when Milan don't have leverage in really any of the situations they're in for sales. I mean, we talked about Origi, we talked about Rebic. Like they're just trying to get the wages off the books at this point and get a structure of a deal that's like somewhat feasible. And I look at the way this is structured, and basically now that what Milan fans have to hope for and is him to perform. Maybe not in the two matches that Atalanta have against Milan, obviously, because
He
knowing
will.
the way things work with this sport and with Milan fans, he puts in 2 goals and celebrates in front of the Atalanta ultras, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we shouldn't have done this, or hindsight's 2020, all that stuff. But as far as the actual package of this deal, it's not surprising. I think people had some wishful thinking, like obligation. The fact of the matter is, aside from PSV, there really wasn't a strong enough suitor that would come with a better package than this. And I think this is really what Atalanta thrives off, right? They thrive off these situations where they get player on the downslope. The valuation obviously took a hit last year. So there isn't great incentive for Milan to hope and support CDK that maybe he has a Josip Ilicic type year where he has 6 goals and 6-7 assists. And it's like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. They'll take up that option. He hits the add-ons. And if they sell him in 2 years to a West Ham for 50, 60 million, Milan get a portion of it. That's kind of what I'm hoping for with this. But I think it's really sheds more light on the failures of Stefano Pioli to develop certain players. And I know people talked about it a lot. What they did this with Leao, with Teo. Like those players came from, either really good, strong foundations and systems like Real Madrid with Teo and Rafael Leao. Obviously, the sporting system is very strong in Lille. So these are players that are ready to go. But when it comes to getting a player that's young and developing in and getting him to that next level, Pioli's really fallen short. And I've noticed in some of the comments that I've seen, even in the presser yesterday, I don't know if you guys caught this, but and I'm paraphrasing what he actually said, was, due to market situations, that's why he wasn't here today. Basically saying like, he failed to show up and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, are you going to take any accountability for the fact that you got a young player in here that was raved about, was highly sought after, and he did nothing, and you couldn't do anything about him to get at least something from production? I don't know. All I know is I think the time has come. You can't keep a player like this. Last year, maybe he had more minutes to give, but ultimately, I look at the way this attack is shaping up, and there's really no minutes for us to say, well, he could be a depth option, because that's really not going to cater to what he needs at this time in his career, and that's minutes and trust from the coach, and Pioli clearly doesn't trust him.
Yeah, that was something that I think peak lack of trust was in that window of like the Torino and Sassuolo games and the Torino Coppa Italia, where everybody was over rotated and CDK is sitting there offensively playing with like the worst players in the squad.
Yeah.
And it's like, go ahead, kid. Go against Torino, by the way, who's one of the more defensive minded sides in the entire country, and you have to go and perform. And if you don't do that, then whatever. And then the Sassuolo match, there were plenty of other bad players within that 11. And then he takes off CDK, in which he sat Rafael Leao for that one. For what the manager does not get enough heat from certain people. I know he gets a lot of heat, but like there's certain things I agree with you guys. Like you can't figure out if he's a right winger or a center forward. Like we're already seeing it with the comments on Reinders on what he's saying. Like you agreed that you would play him in his best position possible, and we're already hearing about central defensive midfielder for a guy who's not a CDM, which also leads to this in Krunic. Torgrud, you're willing to let him go for a little bit of higher price. I think you mentioned 15 to 18 million is something that you would be more than okay with. Given the situation, I thought you made a lot of sense with it, and I agree. I would sell for maybe a little bit less because I think if you can make a move for a Dominguez from Bologna, I think that's more than enough money. But I understand and respect the 15 to 18 million range. Are you still on that? Like, are you only willing to move him with that? And if they're able to sell him, like, who do you think replaces those minutes? Is that just like Pobega? I know you really don't want Pobega. I know you touched
Yeah.
on that.
And,
So, like,
and honestly,
what is your number one desire if Krunic does leave?
mhm. Yeah, my number one reason behind wanting him to stay is my disdain for Pobega. Like, if we have Krunic on the squad, that's less minutes for Pobega. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, he's worth 15 to 18 to Milan. The player is probably worth about 9 to 10. But you look at how Jack Grealish was sold to City for over 100 million, and Villa's excuse was that's what he was worth to us. That's kind of how I'm feeling about Krunic. Not because he's Grealish level player, he's nowhere near that. But you look at who is gone from our squad. Tonali's gone, Kessie's gone, Benacer's out till February. We don't have anyone from last season except for him and Pobega. And it's like lesser of two evils sort of deal. But if he does leave, then it's got to be Dominguez who comes in. I think that's the only name really that we're linked with right now that could fill in that role.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Even though we've had this huge overhaul in midfield, I just feel like we're still pretty thin there, even with all the new names. Obviously, Musa is another body that just came in, but that's not enough either. He's a young guy who really didn't perform at Valencia. Looks good on the national team, but they're playing island nations versus top clubs in Serie A, so it's a big difference. I don't know. I'm nervous. It's risky. I think keep as many players as we can at this point that were in there last year for the midfield. We got Adley as well, but we never really saw him last year, so he's almost like a new signing if he
Adley's a
plays.
waste of breath in these conversations. Like, I know people bring him up, but like, come on, like he doesn't play him. Like it's just it's a waste of time to even suggest it. And it's not to say people are wrong, but like, come on, like we've seen it for how long now? He doesn't like him. It's just and the fact that they can't even figure out a situation for him is totally different. Matt, do you agree with Torgrud on those fronts?
I do. I think, we touched on this in, previous recordings, Martino, where, when you're going to overhaul the squad like Milan is, you need to still like not lose sight of having that foundation and players that understand the system, understand, what it is to play for Milan. I think we all talk about, fit in the club and this guy's a good player, he's a bad player, he's this potential. But sometimes it's just a matter of a player being a good fit. And we've seen Krunic be a good fit, and we've seen him be a good fit in multiple areas when we absolutely needed it, right? Those games where, hey, you don't want to put Benacer and Tonali out there, but you can put Krunic against a Verona or like a Torino, and he'll do a job for you. And I think we have a lot of, for all the good that we've done with this team in retooling the midfield and obviously the attack, there's going to be misses. Players, they're not all going to hit. That very rarely happens in this sport. We saw that in 2017. Really, there was probably two players from that crop of players that actually were successes. You can say Hakan and Kessie. The other guys were either sold or didn't do much of anything. So I do agree in that sense. Like, you want to keep some sort of players from last year, but I think if Milan are going to work out a deal with Fenerbahce, it's got to be quick, because the last thing I want is this to drag on and then Fenerbahce get a little bit irate and they say, we're not doing 15, we're out. And now all of a sudden you're in a position where Milan kind of want to sell him. The player, now it's obvious he wants to leave because he wants minutes, because he sees Reinders, he sees Loftus-Cheek, he sees Musa. He's fourth or fifth. He's fourth or fifth in that midfield depth chart, and you're playing a two-man midfield, assuming it's a 4-2-3-1. So, if I'm speaking more on like what the fee would be that I'd be comfortable letting him go for, and what I'd be realistic with, it would be like 10 or 11 plus like 2 in bonuses. I think somewhere in the middle there, where it's like, hey, they see him at 10, we're more 15 to 18. Work out a deal for 13 to 14 million, contingent on bonuses, and you kind of move forward. And then you have to act quickly to get Dominguez because he's a good player. As you get closer to the season, Bologna are going to be like, well, now we have to get someone to fill that role. And it's never easy when the club that just sold them knows they got to fill him. They're like, well, we know you need a defensive midfielder to replace Dominguez. They got to go out there and get someone. So this deal has to come together quick. Milan have to be a little bit quicker. with the sales as well, because there's a lot of guys that still need to be moving on, and we have 11 days, 12 days until the season starts. Like,
Yeah, I 100%, and it's also convincing someone to play for Bologna in a role like that. So good luck that late into the window. Okay, so biggest priority position, and we know we kind of talked about central defensive midfielder in that sense, and especially I think it would be number one if Krunic was sold. Left back position, who knows with Ballatore? It's looking like Werder Bremen in Germany. Who really knows? That keeps flip flopping and changing everything. Me personally, I brought this up, and this isn't the number one thing, but I have said the right back position is absolutely terrifying because of the domino effect that it will have within the defense and the squad. Is this Florenzi and Calabria are always injured, and your third option right now, from what the manager was not saying, was, oh, it's not going to be Kalulu because that's also our third best center back. So he's going to have to rotate in. So when your third best center back is also your third best right back, when you have two injury prone right backs, what does that spell? Disaster. And I think that's going to happen because we've already seen Calabria miss more time than he apparently was supposed to. Florenzi, really liked the guy. Nice dude. Santangelo, thanks for introducing us. Shout out Peter Morgan. But also, like, come on, I like, we're in a really dire situation. I know Jimenez came over from Real Madrid. I think obviously up front on paper, left back is more important in that sense because there's literally no one behind Teo. But right back really scares me. I don't know if you guys agree on that, but if it's left back or even another center back or a striker, where would you guys really go with this? What would you say is the number one outside of the CDM spot?
You want me to go, or do you, Matt?
Yeah, anybody go first.
Yeah.
Bad job by the host.
All
My
right.
bad.
Well, I agree. It's got to be someone defensively. I don't think it's left back. I think Bartazaghi is going to be called up permanently for the senior squad. I think he looked incredible during preseason. I really liked him. If that's the deputy to Teo, I think it's a guy that is willing to be a backup right now at this stage in his career. He'll learn a lot from the best left back in the world, and he's got room to grow. Plus, he's Italian, homegrown, all that stuff. Great for the squad. So Bartazaghi, I think, is the dude for left back right now, at least as deputy. Right back, I agree with everything he said. It's very thin, very injury prone. So I do think we need someone, but I don't know who. I'm leaning more towards a new center back. I haven't liked what I've seen this preseason. I think Tomori's looked just off the mark. I think Chow's looked the rawest he's ever looked. And that worries me with the season starting soon, especially knowing the games we play in the opening 10. So I think we need more defense, or maybe we just need that defensive mid. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe having no defensive midfielder is exposing our center backs. Maybe that's all it is. So if we get someone in the midfield, maybe they could take a break and they'll do better that way.
I agree. Santangelo?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Torgrud here. Not that the right back isn't an area for us, but I think given how much work needs to be done in other areas, I think, like, if I'm looking where the priority is, I think after a defensive midfielder, it's definitely got to be a central defender. I mean, you got rid of, and more so even for just a personnel. I'm not saying it has to be a 30 million type player, but Gabi is gone. I know he wasn't really used and wasn't a reliable player, but he was a player that was on the team and was available. Kier, you don't even know if he's going to be available because he's getting older. He's injury prone. He's not the type of player that you can play in a high press or a high line, So with all these things kind of put together, and you look at all the things we've noticed in summer, there's Tomori still committing fatal errors, and those things you can kind of tolerate when it comes to the summer and maybe the first couple matches. But as we're creeping closer to that first game and nothing's really improving on a defensive standpoint, everyone's falling in love and is distracted by Reinders and the attack, and that's cool. But if we give up 5 goals and only score 4, we still lost. And we are a team that is fully capable of bleeding in goals and doing it in quick fashion and fatal fashion. We saw the Roma game, right? So when you kind of put all these things together, we do need someone that is a pretty dependable player, someone that can feature across, maybe left center back and right center back, that can be healthy first and foremost, but that can do a job. Maybe we look to a veteran. I don't know. But yeah, the defense really concerns me, and I think it's going to put Magnon in a really bad spot this year. And I think we really do have to see what we do the rest of the summer, but that has to be a priority.
Yeah, I agree. Because again, everything you guys mentioned, Tomori error prone, Chow extremely raw, even if he is talented. We're asking those two on top
Yeah.
of old Kier and a Kalulu who they don't even know what his position is technically, to do that over 40 matches in a season, hoping there's no injuries. So, like, say one guy goes down, then you're looking at a totally different situation. It worries me. This is exactly why we won't win the title. And to just talk about probably the only trophy we'll win this year, Trofeo Berlusconi champs. I don't know why they said they were the first ever champs. I'm pretty sure I guess the tournament did have a different format.
They changed the name. It used to be Luigi Berlusconi, and now it's Silvio. So this one was inaugural.
Yeah, very interesting night. I just want to like quickly mention they were singing Nasun Dorma before the match. They had like opera singers before. I'm not sure if you guys got to tune into the stream. I was just like, this is just like over the top for just like excuse my language, trying to be unprofessional here, a massive piece of shit human being. Like we're just like I'm not gonna be crying over this. Great football owner, sure. Great person, doubt it. So to me, it just like I found it funny. But, is what it is. Great to see our guy, Christian Pulisic, win the penalty, scored on his rebound. Thank God. I would not have wanted to deal with what was going to happen after that if he didn't score on the rebound. We all would have been blamed here, and including Maddie. So, yeah, to me, it's very annoying with the preseason because I agree, again, with you guys. We fall in love with the Reinders and the offensive players and how well they look. And then you just see what happens after, and you're like, holy shit. Like Juve were slicing through our midfield and defense. And that's Juve, one of the worst offensive sides at the time. Maybe they figure things out. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know. I guess it would just be more selfishness from me to hope for like a 2-0 win where we play great offensively and we're not really under duress from other teams. But yeah, I mean overall, I guess nice to get something like that right before we kick off the season against Bologna. So just quick thoughts on that before we wrap up here.
Yeah, I'll say it was difficult to watch. Felt like I was in high school again, trying to find one of those
Oh.
not so legal streams. But I found one, and it was difficult to view it. It was choppy, but I did get to see Pulisic's goal. I prefer almost that he misses the penalty and scores the rebound because it counts as an open play goal, and no one remembers that it was just a deflection.
It's true.
But yeah, that was really it. It was a boring game. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about. The penalties were, I mean, Mike didn't save a single one of them, and the reason we won is because someone hit the crossbar, I believe. So, yeah, it is what it is. It was another preseason game that didn't really make a difference.
Tangelo or anything?
Yeah, I mean, look, there were some players that showed out. I've seen a lot of people comment on like, Pulisic doesn't look like he's a real good fit for the right wing. It's still early; he's still adapting. So I'll give him the benefit.
His link-up play on the goal was great.
Yeah, no, I think that he could be a fit. Obviously we have to wait and see how these things play out with the attackers and how Pioli utilizes them all. Reinders look strong defensively, the same issues that we just talked about, and then everyone's been talking about. If nothing else, I think just me looking at the comments on like IG under like Pulisic's post or Chukwueze's post or Okafor, like it seems more so it was like, hey, like the team won a trophy, like whether you think it's a Mickey Mouse trophy or not, obviously is up to you. But if nothing else, it seemed like a kind of a moment for like some of the newer guys to feel like what it is to win something at AC Milan, which is a huge deal for them.
Sure.
And it's one of those more like those team building things. So like if this gives the team some momentum going into the season, even though it's again a Mickey Mouse trophy, I'm all for it. But yeah, like my goodness, like some of these games have been absolutely dreadful to watch. And all credit to Monza. I mean, Monza are not a laydown team. Like they're a team that I think had the most points ever for a team that just got promoted in a top 5 league. You guys can fact check me on that, but they're a decent team.
And not gonna do
so, but at the same time, like you want to at least see a little bit more steady defensiveness, like some sort of improvement in that department. And we didn't. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Speaking of Monza, by the way, aren't we supposed to get money for Pessina because they stayed up and they purchased him from Atalanta? I thought that was supposed to be a thing. I thought we had 50% of the resale. Could be wrong. Got to talk to Ali later on. Well, Torgrud, appreciate you, brother, always coming in the clutch for this sort of stuff. obviously, guys, if you saw Ali already on the channel, or if you see my videos on Sempre Milan's YouTube, cut up all the clips for them. They have their weekly podcast. They also have their Substack, which you could subscribe to. And there's also tons of great bonus content. Isaac is spearheading a bunch of that with his writing. It's just really great information. Basically highlighted how Milan would be spending their money this summer. It's very accurate in a lot of the things that he was saying. Anything else that I missed? Obviously, all the audio is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all that good stuff for the podcast as well. Anything else that you guys have cooking up before the season that you have not told me about?
I think you plugged more than I would have plugged, so appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I'm there every day checking it out. But yeah, Instagram is definitely doing a lot better. TikTok, I'm too old of a man to be on there now. I'll try and do what I can. But definitely go and check out all that short form video stuff. The season is upon us. We are just 12 days away, I believe. We'll see what ends up happening with Milan. I don't expect the title this season. That's just me being maybe a little negative on things. But Santangelo, you got some stuff cooking up before the season starts, right?
Yeah, I'll have some stuff coming out for Football Italia, Milan related. Obviously, of course, Americans at Milan related. There's a lot of obviously buzz around that, so you guys can check that out as soon as it goes live. Also, Serie A Fantasy. I don't know if you guys are dabbling with that. I know the Fantasy Premier League is a huge thing, but I put out some content weekly, so I'll be putting that out very
I think they
soon.
got mad at me from last year, so I
Yeah.
He's that again.
Just getting content out there, and of course, on here with Martino. Martino tolerates me rambling for 26 minutes. So
try to. I made notes of it. None of that. But Torgrud, thank you so much again. Everybody like, subscribe, comment your thoughts on this stuff. Thank you so much for 3,000 subs. Go and sub to Sempre Milan as well, because that also helps us out together. So yeah, appreciate it, and then we'll see you next time.